Hi, everybody, and welcome to beautiful Costa Mesa, California. Again, it's great to be with you. I want to just quickly lay out the scene, and then I'm going to get right into today's NFL training camp report number one. We do this every year where every day in training camp, I'm bringing you the reports on the latest. I'm going to get into all that in a minute. Normally, they will be up usually, not always, but usually a little bit earlier than this. We've already got um, Antonio Pierce from today is already up, and now we're going to have this training camp report. So let's get right into it. So here's what's going on. The rookies reported, but there was no practicing a couple of days ago just to let them get the lay of the land, to get a feel of what training camp is. The players were allowed to show up here or show up in Las Vegas, and they would fly them down on a plane. So, excuse me. It's my understanding right about now the players are here or will be getting here shortly if they're not. But Antonio Pierce spoke today, and there were several big bullet points that he talked about, and I want to give them to you in this training camp report number one. Um, First of all, he confirmed several stories that we've been reporting to you for a long time. We'll get into that when it's time for it. But first, let's just talk about um, several things that stood out. He was asked about the quarterback competition, and then he instantly went to talking about the defense. Now, you may say, Hondo, why is that important if he's trying to obfuscate or not talk about the offense? That's not the case. And I know a lot of people are going to perceive that, but that's not what AP was doing. So I want to take you back as a reminder. I've been reporting to you for several months, even going back to the Christmas Day win over the Kansas City Chiefs. Antonio Pierce saw firsthand in New York what a dominating defense with a quarterback who doesn't cost you games is like. He saw that, he experienced it, of course, with Eli Manning. And so that's what he wants out of his quarterback. Does he want a guy that can throw the ball down the field? Of course he does, because he wants that aerial attack down the field, pushing the ball. But he wants to do those things when he wants to do them, not when people know. So, for example, this is the second time I've told you this. If you see the Raiders in a 3rd and 9 situation, sometimes they may go deep and take a shot where it's as good as a punt if they intercept it. But there's also going to be times you may see some draws. Why even take a risk? It's not necessary. If you're the Raiders, you have the lead, your defense is dominating. Why take those risks? So I thought it was very critical that literally one of his first questions, he goes right into discussing the defense. Now, I have been telling you for several days that I planned on asking him, and I did. Um, with there going to be a quarterback competition, you don't know what you're facing in the preseason. So you may go up to Minnesota and they may not play any starters. But week 2, they may play all their starters in the first one. When you play Dallas, you just don't know. So how do you get, without joint practices, how do you get a fair quarterback competition to spread out between Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell? And he took that question head on. And again, if you have not listened to him, whether you listen to just our audio or the video, make sure you're checking him out. I think you'll be glad that you did. But he talked about ways of making sure guys get a chance to compete, but a lot of it's going to have to do with practice, which is fine, which is where I thought it would be. I told you that about a week ago, that's where I thought it was going to happen, because um, there wasn't any joint practices and how that was going to go on. Now, um, when talked about deciding on his starting quarterback, he was asked, "Do you have a time frame? When do you want to do it?" And he literally said, "There's no reason to rush it. Just don't feel it." I am hearing internally from people, um, And in fairness, Rich Ganjarello said it during the mini camps. I mean, no, it was during the OTAs that he expected it to be handled rather quickly. Um, AP, had said today there's no need to rush it. I'm hearing internally that they would love to get it done sooner rather than later, but are perfectly content to not making that decision till after the third preseason game. Now, there are some advantages to doing it then. You're going to get about a week's worth of practice. In fact, let me look at my calendar real quick. Yeah, you're going to get about a week's worth of practice without anybody knowing who your QB1 is. Now, obviously, when the depth chart comes out the week before the game or the week of the game, they'll have to acknowledge who it is, but it still gives them a little bit of an opportunity. So, would they like to have it handled early? Yes. Do I think there's some optimism that they're going to get it handled early? Yes. But they're very content waiting till, after the third preseason game. All right, I want to talk about um he said something about Gardner Minshew that really stood out to me. Now, I want to remind you of a couple things. John Gruden was a very gregarious man. Um, I like Gruden a lot, and so this is not a slam at him. So he would just, "Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I like that. Oh yeah, I like it." And he was fun. Rich Bisaccia was very different. Rich is a lot like Antonio Pierce. Josh McDaniels would beat around the bush and not say a lot. None of those are wrong. It's just important to understand what you're listening to. I had someone tell me something one time that people will never remember what you say, just how you made them feel. I don't know that that's true in head coaches' press conferences, but I'll tell you what is true. People will listen to you if they know you're going to say something, and then they just tune you out if they don't. AP says a ton, and he's a lot like Rich Bisaccia. He doesn't try to obfuscate, he doesn't try to hide, he doesn't try to beat around the bush. He just tells you exactly what he's thinking. And when talking about Gardner Minshew, he talked about him being a driven player, but always an underdog. That appeals to AP because at every level, AP's been an underdog. Now, am I changing my opinion that I think Aiden will be the starter week one? No, I'm not changing that. That's an opinion. It's totally up for a battle, but the fact that it's a tie goes to Aiden and there's no joint practices and you don't really know what you're facing in preseason, I think the cards are stacked in Aiden O'Connell's favor. But I've had a lot of people say, "How come you don't like Gardner?" I do. And I thought that was some keen insight into why AP loves him because he's a driven player and he's been an underdog. AP. Now, uh, he was asked about the quarterback competition. Now, I've been telling you all offseason, it's Aiden O'Connell's job to lose. A tie will go to Aiden. I've been also telling you that the motto of the staff is off season is for installation, not evaluation. So you may remember, and you can go back and read and listen. I told you that AP was the number one coming out of camp, out of the off season, and that remains. In fact, AP said, quote, same as coming out of the off season. So he says it's the same. So Aiden's one, they're going to have to beat him. Now, he talked about when is he going to make, how is he going to make the decision about QB1? And I asked him, which I told you I was going to ask. Are you going to listen to your captains? Are you going to listen to Luke? Are you going to just trust your gut? And he gave some great insight. I thought this is great. It's another reason why I love AP's press conferences. He's the kind of coach you want to cover. He said it's going to be him, Luke Getsy, and Tom Telesco. Now, you may say to me, Why is Tom Telesco making the decision? To which I say to you, thank you for asking. Here's why. He understands what he and Tom Telesco have. They have a very rare relationship. I'm not trying to pretend like there's nobody else in the NFL where the GM and the coach are very close and locked in together, because there are certain places, but it is the exception and not the rule. Now, the way the relationship is set up, it's AP's call. It's not Tom Telesco's call. But the fact that AP's like, no, he's been in the league 30 years. I want him in on this. That should give you insight on the esprit de corps of this team and where they're at. They're interlocked. AP knows he's married to Telesco, and Telesco knows he's married to AP. And if they fail, Telesco knows he probably isn't going to get another shot at a GM job. And AP's probably pretty confident he may not. I think he would, but he may not. And I love the fact that it's a big tent and AP's bringing him into the tent and they've got a great relationship. I thought that was really unique. Next, I want to talk about he was asked a question by a media member. And I need to preface this because you're going to probably take this as me saying it was a bad question. And I thought it was a very good question. So I'm not picking on the person that asked it. I thought it was a legitimate, really good question. But I still need to talk about it. They talked to him about making the decision. The fact that Gardner has more experience in the league. AP shut it down. And he just said that has zero to do with his decision. The best guy for the Raiders to win is who's going to get it. This isn't a beauty contest. Oh, Gardner started more games. I'm going to give it. Nope. AP doesn't care. Now, I don't want to get into this in a lot of detail, but AP has seen over his career in football where people made decisions for non-football reasons and they were the wrong decisions. That's not him. He doesn't care what round you were picked in, whether you're a rookie or a 12-year vet. He doesn't care about whether you're a first round pick or a UDFA, of which he was one. He doesn't care about the size of your contract. Doesn't care if you're coming off an all pro year. Everybody competes, including Max Crosby, including Davante Adams. And he just shut it down. Now, in fairness, I want to defend that reporter because I really, and you know me, if I thought it was a bad question, I probably wouldn't tell you, but I certainly wouldn't defend it. I thought it was a great question because he wants to get inside the coach's head. And there are a lot of coaches that would think that way. So I applaud the reporter for asking it, but I applaud AP for just, nope, it's not how we do things with the Raiders. He was asked another question. And again, um, if I didn't think it was a good question, I wouldn't tell you that it was. I probably would just say nothing. But he was asked about ramping up practice, because they start without pads and they got to go to next Tuesday. So, I mean, it's a week. And he said this: there is nothing slow. We are hitting the ground running. He sent a message. He sent a big message. Hey, we are competing. I mean, he talked about Tuesday's going to be full throttle tackling. They're going to go live, full throttle. Next Tuesday, you're going to be, some of you, maybe you live in Omaha, Nebraska, or you live in Meridian, Mississippi, or maybe you live up in Dover, Delaware, or you live in New York City, or up in Cadillac, Michigan, or way down in Reynosa, Mexico, or maybe you're a fan who lives in London or you live in Dublin, Ireland. I don't care. Just keep your ear open next Tuesday because you're going to hear some, oh, and it's the pads of the Raiders. The Raiders are going to echo all over Southern California in a full throttle assault of one another so that when these 4 or 5 weeks of training camp are over, these guys are going to be like, dear Lord, can we just hit somebody in a different jersey? It's exciting. And AP, man, he sent a message. He knew his players were going to be watching the presser. He knew it. He's not stupid. He's sending the message. Now, as of right now, which is the time of this taping, he thinks all 90 guys are going to be healthy. Guys are going to have to get here, do some physicals and stuff. But so if that changes, he doesn't know about it. But as of now, he thinks all 90 are healthy, which is a very big deal. Um, I'd been telling you that Colton Miller would be ready for training camp. He was asked specifically about Colton. He's talked, yeah, he's running around looking good. Everyone I've talked to told me they fully expect him to be ready. So if he isn't, they will be surprised. But he said, as of right now, he expected all 90 to be healthy. Now, he said something that blew my mind a little bit. And in the interest of full disclosure, I'll tell you when I agree with AP and I'll tell you when I don't. I think this could be a catastrophe. He said all the guys are playing in the preseason. Now, that doesn't mean they're playing a full game, and it doesn't mean that they're going to play in all three. In fact, nobody who has solidified. I mean, if you've solidified your spot and you're not a rookie that needs rep, you better not play in the third game. So is it one series? Could be, in which case it's a risk, but I understand it. Is it one series in the week one and maybe the first quarter in week two and then nothing in week three? I think that's some risky stuff he doesn't need to do, but he's the coach. He's AP. I'm HC. I'm just been around a long time and I've seen some teams with a lot of promise. I mean, imagine if you were to lose a Max Crosby or a Robert Spillane or a Christian Wilkins. So I hope he goes careful, but he said everybody's playing in the preseason. Now, you may remember I talked to you about this, that they expected every player to be in the playbook, to know the playbook, to be professional, so that when they got to training camp, everybody knew the expectations, especially referring to rookies. That was his intention. He said something today where he talks about the rookies. A lot of them know it, but he mentioned, and he didn't say specifically if it's one or two or three, but he mentioned there was some saying, "Oh yeah, I need to get back in my playbook because the bullets are coming, man. It's going to be live." Now, I'm going to share with you. I don't know who that is. I do have a couple of suspicions, but I don't know. That's a great wake up call. Hey, you guys are fighting to try to make a team. You better know that playbook and you better know it quick. That's part of the reason now you bring him in 48 hours before the rest of the team. But interesting stuff there. I thought that was a little bit of where AP sends his messages, and I think that's something we're going to watch quickly with rookies. Um, I want to be careful how I address this next question. If you saw the Netflix receiver show, you are aware that Davante Adams was very critical of the organization last year. He is a competitor. That's what competitors do. That being said, AP was asked about it and said, do you think you and Davante need to have a talk? This is what he said. It is what it is. I can't erase it. Now, I want to make it clear. There isn't animus between Davante or AP. Okay. But Devontae is very smart and he knows when he's mic'd, he knows when he's talking, he knows when he's not. And AP just wants him to give his best and he's going to be fine with it. But I thought his answer was, I can't erase it. I thought that was fascinating. I'm not going to offer any more commentary on that. But I thought and I believe there's something there and not in a negative tone. Don't hear me as, oh, there's problems between AP and Devontae. It's not what I'm saying. I just think it was AP being honest, like Devontae was being honest. So as I'm explaining this to you, I'm not implying animus because I know that would be untruthful. There isn't. They respect one another. What I am saying is, though, I certainly got the impression, when AP says, I can't erase it, I thought that was fascinating. And this is what I respect about Devontae and AP. They're both consummate professionals. And here's why I want to address it. I guess I'm just going to go full fledged and address it. AP is like that. He's going to tell you what he's thinking. He doesn't hide anything. And so I think there have been some people that have tried to paint that in a negative light that are not being truthful. I think it was AP saying, he's like me. He signed up for a show. He was asked his opinion. He did what he gets paid for. He agreed to it. I mean, he answered. So I don't want people to read too much into that. I really don't think you should. What I think you should be reading into it is the depth of the level of respect between those two men. I thought that was very fascinating. I thought it was very telling. So there's a lot more. I'm just hitting the highlights. Make sure that you go, please, and check out the AP presser. It's up there ready to go for you. You're going to love it. We're going to have more tomorrow from training camp, a lot more, lots of articles. I just want to thank you for listening. Thank you for paying attention. I appreciate all of you. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Training camp report number 1 is in the books. God bless you.